Hi everyone, I am here with my fantastic real estate and estate planning attorney, Dennis Ansong. And we're here to talk about a topic that I know a lot of you aren't thinking about, but you probably should be. We're going to be talking about estate planning. So Dennis, let's get into it.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us what an estate plan is?
Yeah, so when I think about estate plan, I think about it in a couple of ways. So the first thing that I want to think about with estate planning is how am I going to be managing my assets during my lifetime, right? That's what I think about. The second thing that I think about is if something happens to me, if I become incapacitated, who's going to be making those medical decisions for me on my behalf? Who's going to be taking care of those financial decisions that I need to make that I can't make because I'm incapacitated, right? The third thing that I think about is where are my assets going after I pass? You know, I want make sure that my assets are going to the individuals that I designated that I want to go to. Estate planning is a great tool for all of these things. Also, people don't think about it. It's a great way to build generational wealth. You know, having your assets that you have going to your children to carry on and to grow and for them to be able to pass those assets along as well. That's how generational wealth is built. So estate planning, when you think about it, think about all of those things. Think about, you know, managing your assets during your lifetime. Think about what ifs, because again, we don't have crystal balls. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? We just got out of a pandemic a couple of years ago. People were in a coma. Who was paying for their bills, right? Who was making those important healthcare decisions? You want to make sure you have that set up. And then again, you want to make sure that all of those assets that you built during your lifetime is going to the individuals that you actually want them to go to, right? In the event that you do pass, because unfortunately, that's going to happen to all of us.
Right, and you don't want the cousin coming out of the woodwork that you don't talk to trying to lay claim to something.
Exactly.
So Dennis, can you talk about some of the documents that come along with having an estate plan?
Yeah, sure. So there are a number of documents that you'll get with an estate plan, depending on the type of estate plan that you establish, right? Not every estate plan is for every single individual. Some people need specific plans. For instance, you may have a client that has a disabled child, and they may need some type of trust accounting for that, right? You may have a client that has tax exposure, right? And that may be their main concern. But for the majority of people that don't have very specific needs such as that, the documents that you'll normally get, you'll get a will, you'll get a financial power of attorney, you'll get a healthcare power of attorney, you'll get a HIPAA release form, and then you'll get a revocable living trust. So those are usually the documents that you'll receive with your estate plan.
Okay, and can you touch on what are some of the reasons why somebody would need to have an estate plan?
Absolutely. So again, every plan is different. Not every plan is the exact same. But majority of clients, if you don't have a very specific estate plan, the majority of clients, you know, I would say all clients want to stay out of probate. I'm not going to say majority. All clients really want to stay out of probate. They don't want to have their estate go into probate, and they don't want their family members to be fighting over their assets.
Can you explain what probate is?
I certainly can. So probate is the legal process that occurs after an individual passes, right? The judge makes a determination of where those assets are going to go to. They determine what those assets are, and then they make a determination of, you know, where the assets are going, which heirs are getting these particular assets. The reason why people want to stay out of probate, there are a number of reasons why. You know, the number one reason is really the cost. You know, probate can be, the probate process can be very, very, very expensive. Another reason is the length of time. To settle a probate matter, it could take anywhere from 6 months to a number of years, depending on the size of the estate and the complexity of the estate, right? Another reason too is if you do have a will, and most people don't know this, but if you have a will, most of the time you still have to go through probate. So if you just have a will, you don't have a trust, and the will is all that you have, for a majority of individuals, you still have to go through the probate process, okay?
Wow.
Yeah. So once that will is entered into court, the court needs to validate that will. And once they do so, that becomes public record. So what that means is those assets that are disclosed in the will become public record.
So anybody could
Exactly.
get the information about your assets?
Exactly. It becomes public record, and the distributions that are made from the will to the heirs also become public record.
Wow.
Right. So due to those reasons, a lot of people just really want to stay out of probate, and again, the cost.
Absolutely, because it could drain the funds, right?
It could drain the funds of the estate, right? It could drain the estate, and then those individuals that were supposed to receive, assets from the estates, it goes to the courts. It goes to the attorney fees, right? And so those are some of the reasons why people want to stay out of probate. Now, if you have a trust, a living trust, revocable trust, with the trust, that's not public record.
Okay.
That's private, right? Also with the trust, it expedites the releasing of the assets to the beneficiaries. So you don't have to wait 6 to 12 months to receive those assets, that are disclosed within the trust, right? It expedites the process, and the court fees aren't as high as as going through the probate process, right? The court fees are much less than going through the probate process. Another reason why people want to establish trust is the flexibility. The flexibility and having control of your assets, the flexibility in being able to manage your assets while you're alive, right? And the flexibility of dispersing those assets to those specific beneficiaries after you've passed, right? And not having to go through the probate process.
So obviously you worked hard for everything that you built, and you want to make sure it goes to who you want it to go to.
Exactly. You want your intentions and you want your last wishes to be carried out and be followed through from that trust that you've prepared, right?
And I guess it's important to have this in place if you have children.
I would agree, so 100%, 120%.
Okay.
In my opinion, if you do have children, it's very, very important to have an estate plan established. You want to establish guardianship, especially if you have minor children, right? If you have minor children, you want to make sure to be very specific in terms of, hey, if something happens to you and your spouse, you want to make sure that you have written in your estate plan who is going to care after your children. You want to make sure that those values that you want to instill within your children are carried out with the individual that you designated as your guardian.
Right.
Because if you don't have a plan, the state will certainly have a plan for you in terms of guardianship for your children. And it may not be the guardians that you decided that you wanted to be, to pick for your children, right? So I think it's very, very important when you do have children to make sure that you have an estate plan and you establish guardianship for those minor children.
Okay. And Dennis, I have a lot of single clients that are homeowners. Is it important for them to have an estate plan?
I think it is. I think it's very important for single individuals to have an estate plan. Even if you don't have a lot of assets, some people say, I talk to people all the time and they say, why do I need an estate plan? I don't own anything. You have your life,
right,
at the end of the day, right? And that's important because, as I mentioned before, what if something happens and you become incapacitated? Who is making those medical decisions for you on your behalf? If you have a home, right, you have a lot of clients that are single that own homes.
Right.
Who's paying for those mortgages? Who's paying for those bills? You want to make sure to have that established, and within your estate plan, you can have all of that established. And that goes to my next point, a peace of mind. That's what your estate plan brings to you, right? By preparing an estate plan, by working with an attorney, myself, and telling that attorney what your goals are, what your wishes are, what you want to accomplish. You could put together a very comprehensive estate plan that addresses all of this. Now, hopefully it doesn't come to fruition. You don't get into a major car accident, you don't become incapacitated. But again, we don't have a crystal ball.
No, we don't.
So we don't know what's going to happen, right? So it's always great to plan for the worst and hope for the best. And that's really what your estate plan is. And again, you want to set this up in a way so that, you know, if something does happen to you, you pass away, you don't have an estate plan, you don't have to go through the probate process, right? You don't have to go through that crazy process. Everything is streamlined in terms of where you want your assets to go, and then, you know, making sure that your last wishes are carried out the way that you wanted them to carry out, because you still want to have control even if you're six feet underneath, right? So you still want to have that control. So I think that is very important to a lot of my clients that, you know, that come to me, that talk to me. You know, they want to make sure that their wishes are really carried out, and they don't want to leave it up to the courts to make that determination for them.
And so it sounds like, you know, when you're happy, healthy, things are going great, this is a great time to get an estate plan in place, as well as if you have different, you know, life changes that come along. So these things can all change as you go through life?
Absolutely, certainly can. So, you know, you can build into your estate plan.
Okay.
So you can set up your estate plan, a single individual, you don't have any assets, you don't own a home. You set up your estate plan with your revocable trust, which allows you to make these changes in the future. So if you do purchase a home, you can amend your trust and add that asset into your trust. If you have kids, you could amend that and add your children, right, into your trust as well. So it gives you the flexibility to do so. So again, you could build into your actual trust. You don't need to have, you know, tons of assets to put an estate plan together. And when people think about an estate plan, they're thinking about death planning. They're thinking about what's going to happen if I die. No, you need to think about what's going to happen while you're alive, right? While you're still breathing. How are you managing your assets? You know, what happens if, again, you get into a car accident? I mean, we just had a pandemic, right? And unfortunately, a lot of people passed during that time. So, you know, again, it's always to plan for the worst, hope for the best, and that's really what the estate plan is for. The estate plan just really gives you a peace of mind for the future. Okay,
and it's really more than just your assets, like you talked about. I mean, it's your financial decisions, it's your health care. You know, these are all things that you aren't thinking about when you're healthy.
Exactly.
You know, so things could go sideways.
Things could go sideways really, really quick. You know, you might be the healthiest person one day, and then the next day, you know, you take a trip somewhere and something catastrophic happens. Right.
You just never know.
You just never know. So again, just having that estate plan in place, planning for it, and just anticipating what may happen. Even if it doesn't happen, hey, you've already planned for it, right? And that's the whole, that's the whole importance of having that estate plan.
Think about the future.
Think about the future. Think about the future, exactly.
Dennis, this has been great information. I appreciate you taking the time to explain this process. I know there's a lot more to it, so if you have additional questions about real estate or estate planning, please reach out to Dennis. He is here to help you. And Dennis, do you want to give him your information?
Absolutely. So you can email me at dennis@ansonglaw.com. That is Dennis at ANSONG.com. Looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Glynnis. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for coming by. And until next time, everyone, we'll see you. Thanks so much.